Hello and welcome back to our How to Paint series of tutorial videos. If you joined us last time in this specific set of videos, you'll know that we have finished a couple of different parts of our Chaos Sorcerer Lord commemorative series, Warhammer Plus, what have you. If you were subscribed last year, it was the free model. First we finished off this little kind of Black Knight looking dude. Then we did our little Cauldron fellow, kind of a Nurgling-esque guy. Personally, my favorite out of the bunch. Then we finished, this was our last episode, he's kind of a Murloc-esque guy. And now we are on to our kind of questionable designed little kind of messenger minion, it looks like. Now, there's a lot of allegations against Warhammer players for things like fascism and whatnot, and kind of there is a lot of themes specifically in 40k about that sort of thing. I just want to say, Games Workshop, you're not helping the allegations here. Okay, you're not helping anybody. It's a great model. I love the little detail with the scrolls and everything, but man, the point of it is a little bit much. Either way, of course, before we start every video, I've already gone and applied a layer of Vallejo surface primer. Again, it's very cheap. You can get it off Amazon. Very effective. I've been using it for all of my models, even outside of videos, and I've done probably, I'd say, 100 models with it, give or take. Fairly decent sized models, Space Marines, Terminators, all of that. And I still have like 95% of the bottle, so it lasts quite a long time. Now again, we're going to be starting off with our Abaddon Black, as always. And we are going to make sure our paint is properly thinned. If this is your first time joining us for some reason, I don't blame you. YouTube kind of recommends some wacky videos for you sometimes. Sometimes it'll give you part 1 of a series, sometimes it'll give you part 10. I don't understand the algorithm, and I probably never will. But that's okay. We're not here to understand things. We're just here to paint, right? So we are going to give this a liberal wash with our Abaddon Black. Now you notice I'm kind of avoiding doing these scrolls, and there's a reason for that. I've explained this in the last videos, but if you've missed those, doing a light color over a dark color is exponentially harder than doing a dark color over a light color. So if we just avoid kind of painting those scrolls black, it'll be much easier to do our final kind of layering on them with the base color we're going to use, which, spoilers, we're going to be again going with our Flayed One Flesh. I find it's a good scroll color. Also a good skin color if you're doing a wash over it, which if you're doing skin, I beg of you, please use a wash. It makes things so much easier. But, personal choice. I can't force you to do anything. The only one who can, of course, is Games Workshop himself. And once again, we're going to be making sure that we kind of get full coverage here. We don't want it all being the same shade. That's okay. If some of your model is lighter than other points, that's kind of the intended purpose of doing this. And again, you can do your base layer with either white, gray, or black. That's kind of your 3 basic options. And depending on which one you choose, you will get kind of a different effect, either a lighter or darker overall kind of feeling to your model. But for today, and for most of our videos actually, I always find that Abaddon Black is a perfectly suitable color. Now, we have a little bit of an issue today, and that is that I don't have the dry brush color I want for the red that we're going to do. Again, we're just basing everything off the box art here, if I can fit it on screen. You've probably seen this about a dozen times now if you've been watching all the videos, but that's okay. We're just going to be doing a basic red for him. And I have 2 choices, and I'm going to be using them both. First we have Corn Red, which will be our base layer, And then our slightly lighter, at least that's how it appears from outside of the paint pots. I haven't used them in a while, so I'm not sure. We also have Mephiston Red. So we're going to be going ahead, and getting our corn red out. Always give it a little bit of a shake beforehand. Popping it open. And again, I keep trying to do that away from the microphone. It tends to peak it for some reason. I don't think it's that loud. I think it's just kind of the way it picks it up. I'm not sure. This microphone I like it a lot. I got it off Amazon for pretty cheap. If you guys are curious about it, I'll put it in the description or something. It's not anything fancy. It was like 20 bucks. It works. It works very well. I like it. But it picks up a lot of just kind of wacky noises for some reason. And, I'm not an audio guy. I don't really understand any audio engineering stuff. So please don't hold that against me, but I'm sure there's a reason for everything. I will just never understand it. And again, we're going to be careful not to get those scrolls if we can avoid it, because this is a darker color, and the next layer we'll be doing on top of this is lighter, and it'll be much harder to kind of go over. It's possible. If you're doing thin layers especially, it just takes a lot of work. So we're going to avoid that as much as possible, because the goal of these videos, well, not only showing you kind of my techniques, and there's many different ways to go about painting. If you're watching this and you don't really have a wide scope yet of the different techniques, don't think that this is the only way to do it. I see people who paint like pure dry brush, which I think looks awesome in the end. There's people who use ink paints. Just a wide variety of different techniques and methods. So don't watch these thinking that these are the best ways. This is just kind of what I'm accustomed to and what I kind of am comfortable using. And I do like to kind of go outside of my comfort zone every now and then and try a different technique, which is actually what we're doing today. Excuse me, my throat's getting a little bit kind of clogged up here. Again, excuse me. If you've been watching a few of the other videos, you'll know that I've had this horrible cough for quite a while now. It's, I think, going away, finally. I've had it for like a month. I got the cold at some point, and it just decided to stick with me. So I've been having that fun little adventure. And as we kind of let our guy dry here, I'm kind of realizing that I want to do another layer, and that's perfectly fine. That's kind of the intended goal, is 2 thin layers, alright? Not 1 thick layer. Sometimes you can get away with it. A trick for that, not that you should aim for just doing 1 layer. It is the quicker route, of course, but just making sure you have a good amount of paint on your brush. You don't want too much, and that's kind of why you'll notice me just making sure I don't have too much on my brush here before I go to apply it to my model. Because if you have too much paint, you'll get the same effect as if you haven't thinned your paints at all, and you really want to avoid that. And we will just finish up another quick layer here. I think as this layer dries, once we're finished, we will be moving on to the scrolls. And we're going to have some fun with that. I have a personal favorite technique. It's kind of the quick and dirty route of doing it. And we'll basically just be doing our Rakarth, or sorry, not Rakarth. Usually I use Rakarth flesh, but we are using flayed one flesh this time. We'll be doing that, and once it's dried and we're happy with it, we'll be doing a wash of Agrax Earthshade over top of it. And I find that if you let it kind of pool a little bit, it kind of gives like its older parchment kind of feeling to it. And it can give you a really nice effect if you do it properly. Sometimes I manage it, sometimes I don't, so we're just going to kind of roll the dice and, hope for the best. That's okay. That's what these videos are all about. And now that I think we're finally happy with our solid layer of red there, You're going to be making sure our brush is thoroughly cleaned. We don't really want to get any red mixed in with our flayed one flesh. There we are. Again, shake your paint before you open it. This one's actually pretty full, so I'm sure you could manage to hear the shaking there. And I'm trying to do a little bit better job of showing you guys my actual getting the paint on the brush, just for kind of the newer people out there who aren't familiar with what thinning your paint really entails. And for those of you that have been watching for a little bit, you're probably tired of me saying to thin your paint by now, but that's kind of the point. It's something that's very easy to forget and very difficult to kind of master. I'm still not great at it. You'll find sometimes that I do my paints too thin, or I still manage to do them too thick, and that's okay. We're all along on the journey to getting better here. And if I can keep my painting on screen, that would be great. I need to have like tape down on my desk so I can know like where my work area is. If this is your first time watching, you might not know this, but my setup is like super janky. My tripod that I have and my camera, which is actually just my phone, which, it works. I want to upgrade to something better in the future, but for now, it's fine. It's like right in the middle of my workstation, and I've managed to kind of move it a little bit so it's not as much of a hassle, but it's kind of wild trying to, angle and maneuver in here while keeping it on camera, especially because it's actually like slightly out of my field of view. I get a little bit tunnel vision when I'm painting, just because of all the tiny little details that we have to pay attention to here. So keeping things kind of on screen is a little bit difficult for me sometimes, but I promise I do my best, and as we continue on with more of these videos, hopefully many more, hopefully you guys aren't tired of this by now and you want to see more. We will get better. I will get better. There's nothing we about it. You guys aren't doing a horrible job here. I am. But hopefully I will get better at kind of managing all of this in the future. And we managed to get just a little bit on the underside of our guy's arm there. That's okay. That's the nice thing about having thin layers, is we can very quickly rectify that. I still have my corn red open, so we don't even need to take too much time out of our project here to do it. I can just get a tiny bit of red on our brush. Again, making sure we don't have too much on at once, otherwise we're going to get some pretty nasty texture once it's all said and done. And we're just going to very carefully kind of go over that. And hopefully not get any on the scroll, which I just did, but hopefully once that dries, it won't be too noticeable. There we are. Now, I must say, I'm not too big of a fan of Warhammer Fantasy, like the lore, at least. I'm a huge fan of the Total War games. I don't know why I just took him off my paint handle. Sorry, I'm doing like the Lego talk thing, where I'm just not focusing on what I'm doing. I'm more paying attention to what I'm talking about. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, I'm a huge fan of the Total War Warhammer series. I have all 3 of them. I have almost all of the DLC. It's kind of my guilty pleasure. I give my wife a hard time for all of her Sims 4 DLC, but I have tons of DLC in the Total War series, so I can't say much. I will say, however, that that's basically where all of my lore understanding comes from, and I'm a little bit ashamed to say that. I do want to get more into it. I want to read more of the books, some of the stories and whatnot, but I haven't quite got there yet. So all of these models, I don't know if there's like, a specific story behind it. I don't know if Mibyllorr Darkfang here has a specific story. I really know nothing about him. I don't really have too many fantasy models. I have some Skaven. I do like the Skaven a lot, but I don't have very many other fantasy models. And I haven't really said what I'm doing here yet. Sorry, the Lego talk overtook me. Warhammer lore will always take number one in my precedent, so don't get me started on too many topics here. But we are going to be opening up our Mephiston red here, which is slightly lighter than our corn red, and we're going to be trying to get the, I've shown this in previous videos, but kind of the back curve of that brush there is what we want to be focused on. And our paint's actually had time to dry since I've been explaining it, so we'll get a little bit more on our brush. And I would rather be dry brushing this, but I don't have a red dry brush paint. So we're going to be kind of Baja on it here and hope for the best. And if we can do it lightly, just kind of gently press the back of your brush onto the raised areas. Not too much, but if you do, that's okay. It'll kind of dry and even itself out a little bit. And the thing about this is you want to think about it from a kind of a light source perspective. You don't want to highlight the entire thing, right? That wouldn't make sense if you were, say like you're looking at this in real life, like this was a real guy, right? It wouldn't be lit up all over. So if you imagine your light source is over here and he's going, head on into your guy, his back won't be highlighted. That wouldn't make sense. You still can if you just want to pop out the details, but I'm kind of want more of a realism approach here. So we have to think about what would be highlighted, and it would kind of be the kind of arms here are in front. So we're going to try, if we can, kind of get our brush in here. Again, just going along that back curve. Maybe we'll get the shoulder here. Not too much. And then the other arm, which, again, right-handed problems, we're kind of going at a super weird angle, upside down even. And we're just going to kind of keep going with the trend of hitting all of the raised areas as best we can. And we'll kind of give that a second to dry and see where we are. And actually, his other arm does tuck in underneath here. So I kind of want to do just a tiny little bit on the other arm. And our paint's actually almost fully dried now, so it gives us a little bit more control. And that's nice. I just want to go over a little bit more of kind of his hood. And again, this is kind of my first time doing this. I try to take the lazy way out and dry brush if I can. So this is new territory to me. I've seen this done a few times. I've never done it myself. So we're just kind of hoping for the best. And actually, now that I look at this, I've spotted one little other area that I want to kind of get here, just because it's another kind of prominent fixture. Get some more red on our brush. Again, thin down enough where if we make a mistake, it doesn't matter too much. Let me move my massive thumb there. And you can kind of see it's sorry, I'm trying to focus here, not mess it up. There's a little bit of a kind of edge that comes up on the side of the robe there. We want to make sure we get that. And then there's also, every time I look at this model, I swear more little details kind of pop up. If I can get in here at a proper angle, I don't think I'll be able to use the back of the brush technique here. That kind of hood edge there where it connects to the rest of the model. And I'm butchering it, but that's okay. And now we got to the point where that's not okay because I got it on the scroll. But we want to do another layer of that anyway, so that's fine. It just gives me an excuse to do it quicker, right? I think that's what we're gonna call kind of finished with the highlighting there. It's not too extensive, it just kind of gives a little bit more detail to our guy. There is more I could do with it, but honestly I wouldn't really feel comfortable I feel like the risk of kind of messing my dude up is a little bit high here, and for the sake of our video, I don't really want to have to restart. It would make this kind of embarrassing. So again, we're going back to our Flayed One Flesh, another little tongue twister of a name for a paint, and we'll go ahead and get a thin down amount on our brush, and just go back over these scrolls one last time. And again, once we have a good layer that we're happy with, we'll actually be going over it with a shade, which I'm very excited to show you guys if it looks good. That's always the case, right? If it looks terrible, I don't want to show you, but we'll try our best. And actually, I managed to get just a little bit of red on the bottom of that scroll there too, but that's okay. It's very difficult to see. And we'll just make sure that that is fully covered. And actually, I managed to get just a little bit on the robe. We'll see if we can't just wipe that off with some water real quick. Nah, we kind of salvaged it. It's good enough. That is the pinnacle of my painting technique. It always boils down to it's good enough. And again, even closing the paint pots looks like it peaks my mic a little bit there, which is just super weird. I don't really understand why it does that. But we have a few more details to take care of before we do our wash. So we're going to go ahead and pop open our our Abaddon black again. Too many names sound too familiar for us. That's okay. And we're going to use a smaller brush than we've been using, because now we're doing some small details. This is the fun point, right? Where we get in the real nitty-gritty of where our shaky hands are really going to come into play here. And notice he has a little bit of a belt going all the way around. It also is in the front, and then the scrolls themselves have a little bit of a wrapping that we want to take care of. So without further ado, in the hopes that we don't horribly mess this up, we're just going to start to apply it. And again, we want to be very careful, because getting black, especially on our Flayed One Flesh, is going to suck to fix. And if we can avoid doing that in the first place, that'll make our lives much, much easier. And for the most part, it kind of looks like we've managed to avoid catastrophe. That's pretty good. I think we will kind of leave it alone. Maybe get one more little brush stroke in here. It's very nerve-wracking, especially as our guy falls off of our paint handle. Great, just what we need, right? Get that tiny little bit more paint on our brush. And it's very hard to see down here, but it looks like he kind of has his belt that goes under, and it looks like there's also another little bit of that kind of cord that goes around the scroll itself. And I've managed to butcher that execution there. You can see I got it all over the scroll. We'll fix that a little bit, but it's also a kind of in a spot where it's not noticeable, so we won't harp on it too much. I feel like that's what this whole model has been so far, is just us making mistakes and trying to fix them. And sometimes that's the way that it goes with mini painting. This is actually a great kind of tutorial, because it shows that, you know, mistakes are very easy to make, but they're very easy to fix, unless it's big enough, right? So don't be afraid to not only paint with a little bit of freedom, but also just to make mistakes, not only just for, you know, the point of it being an accident, but also just for the point of it giving you an excuse to learn, you know, how to fix it. Because that opens up a new route of freedom for you. If you know you can fix something, you'll have no worries about doing it and messing it up, which is great. And also, while we were doing this, I almost forgot to do it. We're going to get his little shoes. His tiny little booties are going to also be Abaddon black colored here. Again, we're going based off the box art, so I'm not taking too many artistic liberties here. Just for the sake of our tutorial. If you decide that you want to give him different colored boots, I highly recommend it. I encourage you to be as creative or non-creative as you want. My Ultramarine army is almost exactly as close to the box art as I can get. Every model. It's not because I don't have any creativity. I really like Ultramarines, and I really like the official GW artwork. I think it's great. I hope one day to reach the peaks of doing such a good job. Excuse me. But, you know, having an army that looks like the official box art is just like super pleasing to me. I don't know what it is about it. I also love Ultramarines in general. It's another thing that I'm not too deep in the lore with, though, but from what I have read, they're cool. I really like the kind of more tactical, logistic stuff. And again, I apologize, I'm talking 40k when we're doing a fantasy model. That's heresy, right? But I can't help myself. I am a huge fan of all things Warhammer. I'm always looking to learn new things about the lore. I'm always looking to read more books. It's been about a month since they had this deal, but Humble Bundle had, I think it was like 25 books for maybe $18. All ebooks. I think they might have had some audiobooks in there as well. I'm not sure. But a bunch of them were fantasy. I want to say like over half of them were fantasy novels. So, close that quietly. I'm very excited to bust those open at some point and kind of tear into them. And just to fix our little mistake from earlier, because I know it might bug some people, and it's actually going to bug me, we're going to do a tiny little bit of our flayed one flesh, if it would stay open on us. This specific paint pot likes to close on me, and I'm not really sure why. I haven't done anything to it, I promise. I treat all my paint pots nicely. And we're just going to do the top there. Kind of clean that up. And then I think it was the bottom here where we accidentally got a little bit of black on it. And we're just going to do a general kind of cleanup here. Again, flayed one flesh is kind of a difficult paint to do if you're doing thin layers, which you should be. Hopefully, or maybe don't if you don't want to. I'm not here to dictate what you do and don't do. It's entirely your personal choice. If you like doing thick layers and you're happy with your final result, perfect, go for it. But if you want kind of a smoother texture when you're finished, thin is what you want. And flayed one flesh is a difficult one to do that with because it's very light and it takes a lot of layers to kind of get a solid one color kind of full coverage. But that's pretty good for now. And I know I said in the 3 other parts that we were going to do all of our washes excuse me, and our basing in the last part once we finished everything, and we still have one more model to go, but just for the sake of this model here, because it's kind of a pivotal point of him, we are going to be doing, I'm sure you can hear me shaking it, our Agrax Earthshade. And this will be our finishing touch. Get a little bit on our brush here, not too much, you don't want it everywhere. And we're just going to cover these scrolls with it because it'll give you kind of a nice kind of, not only like an old, but like a kind of I wouldn't say like burned, but like well read kind of texture, right? Like they're old, they're tattered, they've got some dirt and grime on them, and that's really what we want. And the nice thing about this is that it goes into the recesses very well, so it kind of does a natural shading for us. And on the flatter kind of panels, it does that kind of dark yellowish brown kind of color, and it adds just enough detail to our model where, you know, we can skip a lot of other steps with highlighting and whatnot and just go straight to the wash. It's very nice, very effective. Normally I would go over the entire model with it, but I think we'll save that for Null Oil, and we will do that in the final part. We won't touch on this today. This is actually turning out to be a little bit of a longer episode, just because I've had so many tiny little things I've wanted to fix. And a lot of it I do off camera. Like if I notice something and I intend to fix it, I'll do it, you know, without wasting your guys' time. But for this little guy, given that it's the last one of the 4 that we're finishing up, I just kind of wanted to make sure he came out as good as we can get him on this first go. Close up our paint, hopefully not peak the microphone. And we will showcase the 4 models that we've done already, if I can move all of these things out of the way. So again, we have our little guy we just finished. He is a very promiscuous little model. Please don't paint him white. We have a reputation enough already. We don't need more of that. We have our little Murloc lizard man, which we dry brushed all over. And again, I want to point out, if you didn't see it last time, I would like to know what this thing on the bottom is. That like, we painted it brown because that's what the box art looks like. I don't know what it is. If you have an answer, please tell me. We have my favorite, which is our little cauldron. Very nice. And I did go over the teeth 1 or 2 more times, just with our different shades of white. I did that off camera, of course. Didn't want to waste your time. And we also have our little kind of Black Knight model that we started with. And I haven't really done anything with the shading on this, but we did one thin layer, and it just came out, because of the primer that we used underneath is gray. It kind of naturally gave us this like highlighting effect that I really like a lot. Totally accidental, but I like it, and we're going to keep that. So next time, and we might take a little bit of a hiatus. I've been doing these fantasy models for, I think, 4 videos in a row now, maybe 5. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and we're going to do some Warhammer stuff, some 40k stuff next, probably. But when we get around to doing the final part in this specific series, we are going to be doing the Chaos Lord himself. I still haven't even assembled him. Sorry, that's my bad. But we will be getting around to him. We'll be doing it as the box art suggests, or as close to that as we can get. We're going to be doing all of our basing and all of our shades, so it's going to be probably a 2 or 3 part episode when we do that one. But we'll get them off the paint handle just so we have them all lined up here nicely. Until then, I thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more of this and you enjoyed it, please like, comment, subscribe. You don't have to, but I would appreciate it nonetheless. You know, it's just something that kind of goes with helping, you know, spread kind of our videos out a little bit more. Maybe let some more people, you know, see it. I don't know how the algorithm works, so I'm not going to pretend like I know that it does something for kind of getting more views, but I think it does. Maybe. I don't know. Someone correct me if that's not the case. Either way, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.